Hello, everyone. We're still at Gamescom 2018, sponsored by Blizzard Entertainment to be here. I am joined by one of their great employees. Now, I said your name wrong last time on purpose.
You did?
I did. Your name is Kaeo Milker.
Perfect. Look at
Yeah.
that. Yeah, beautiful.
I've noticed that a lot of people just call you Kaeo.
I respond to all kinds of things.
Yeah?
It's not their fault my mom gave me that name, so.
I mean, it is unique. It is unique. I like it.
Thanks.
You know, I think I grew into my name.
Yeah.
You know, Walter? It's kind of an old man's name.
It's a good name.
It's kind of weird, like on the playground. Walter, come here. Don't fall down.
You and the guy on the bench turn around.
Yeah, exactly. His mic's a bit too soft. You got it, team. There you go.
All right.
Anything
Is
you
that
need,
better?
I can do.
Are we good?
Probably. So we get to bug him for, I think, an hour.
Uh-oh.
Is that true?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
absolutely.
If not, it is now.
No, yeah.
So I would like to hear it straight from, what is the term? The horse's mouth? Is that the term? What is Heroes of the Storm?
What is it?
Yeah, just in case anyone's joining us for the first time.
First-time viewers. It's our love letter to Blizzard and all the amazing games and characters and worlds that we've created over the years. And it's a really fun place to get together with some of your favorite friends and totally destroy other people.
Yeah. I heard it was inspired by a arcade fighting machine. Is that true?
An arcade-
Is there any validity to that?
I mean, when we first were going into it, we were kept talking about it as kind of like the Smash Brothers of MOBAs and stuff in the early days. That's how we looked at it. But yeah, I mean, this was kind of like our dream to bring all these characters together. And it's really cool to do it now, and we're 80-plus heroes into it.
I was just about to say, now we're 80 characters in.
It's really cool.
So Mephisto comes from a little game called Diablo 2.
Yeah.
I have an idea,
What's that?
because he's not officially released yet. Everyone who's been talking about Mephisto here at the convention brings up memories of doing magic find runs in Diablo to kill him, over and over and over. I didn't play Diablo 2. Please don't judge me too hard. I came in at Diablo 3. But I thought it'd be cool when he dies, he drops an item. Kind of like the core on Battlefield of Eternity and Infernal Shrines.
Mm-hmm.
Just have him drop an item.
Cool.
That's it.
Just cosmetically, like
Yeah,
something
totally just
fluff.
cosmetically. It's like, oh, did I get a set piece? Did I get a legendary? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I love just the sound of it.
I do too, yeah. So, what can you tell us about Mephisto? What about him? Like, what about Mephisto did you capture in his kit? I guess is what I'm trying to ask. Like,
Yeah, we definitely pulled from people's experiences killing him thousands of times in D2, and we wanted to capture some of the iconic gameplay, like his Q skull missiles kind of carried over from that. From the art perspective, we've done some different things. I've seen some feedback on it, but we had to try to do some interpretations of him to bring him into the Nexus, but then also because his original design is really just like a spine and some ribs and
yeah, that's true.
like a portion of a skull, and so we fleshed him out a little bit just to get him a meteor silhouette in the game. But he really fills a unique space, both I think in his physical representation, but also his gameplay as this really aggressive, sustain-based mage, which is really kind of a different direction from the rest of the mages in the game that are so much about, poking burst damage, running away, coming back, doing that again. Like he just wants to be in the middle of everything. So kind of feels good for another primeval to be in the game that's all about being in your face. And
yeah. What can you tell us about the development cycle for him? So from the time someone goes, Mephisto, let's do it, how long does it take? Like, what are the steps to get him into the game?
Yeah, I mean, most of the heroes are all running in a pretty similar timeline. It's usually somewhere between 6 and 9 months, depending on the hero and how involved they are.
During that time, how many people would you say touch the character, like have their hands in it?
I mean, the core hero team, which is like a cross-disciplinary team made up of artists and like character artists, FX artists, animators, designers, technical designers, engineers. That group is usually somewhere in like the 10-person range. And then across the team and including QA for validation, like quality assurance validation and everything, there's probably 30, 40. You get sound in there as well. We have sound designers who are dedicated to each hero. A lot of people touch them. Again, over many, many months. And most of that time, though, is actually us iterating on them. It's us trying things. We go into play tests multiple times a week. They have design play tests and then all team play tests. And like our all team play test, there's like 300 plus people invited that are both on the Heroes team and other teams as well.
Throughout the company?
Yeah, just kind of invited to come in and check them out. And we do those every week. And so there's like a lot of time spent validating them, a lot of tweaking and changing and swapping out abilities. And, as we go, we start finding the things that feel right. And, we'll hang on to something, throw out another thing, and just kind of keep mixing and matching. And all the while trying to drive to a point that we really are feeling like we get it to a good place.
That's so cool. So looking back on, first of all, how long have you been with Blizzard? I mean, I know, but...
it's been almost 17 years.
So looking back on that 17-year journey, which character were you most excited to see come into the Nexus? Like, who in the Nexus means the most to you?
I don't know. There's so much, like... I kind of go back to the games that I played before I came here, and so I actually like us going back to, StarCraft was something so near and dear to my heart, and that's the game that I have worked on the longest at Blizzard as well. StarCraft 2. I think probably the things that we brought in from StarCraft were the ones that meant the most to me, just because that was kind of my game. We talked before about my daughter's name Kerrigan, and all these things that are just, it's really like an important part of my life, and not just my professional life, but I think it's like the game that I, played with my brother, who's a lot younger than I am. It was like a thing that we could do together. We could talk about, and like it was a really special game to me. So I think every time I celebrate the StarCraft universe in here again, it gets me really excited. But
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, what about Mephisto? Like, how do I want to word this? In what situation would you say that Durance of Hate excels?
That's a really nice way to ask that question. I don't know. Have you not found something that felt good with it so far?
So, real talk, I was running away from Garrosh one time, and I was like, okay, so I've been using Consume Soul this whole time, and it feels really good, and I like it. And I assume that Durance was meant to be more of the defensive option, because he's a very offensive-oriented character. I mean, you're teleport, right? I mean, you go in, you deal damage, and then you go back to the location like that. Mm-hmm. So I thought that this would be the answer to, oh crap, I actually need to run away from this fight. Let's try it. And I went up against Garrosh, and I rooted him, and then he stunned me, and we both just kind of sat there. And then I was slowed after his stun, and he just walked up and threw me. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's made to really pair well with Mephisto's kit, right? Like, something that it roots the first hero that it hits, but then it also will spread and it'll kind of go out and get more.
Awesome looking effect, I will say.
Yeah, no, but the idea, I think, is that it is, I mean, you could use it to get away in theory, because he does not have a lot of mobility, he doesn't have many escapes.
Yeah.
But it can be something, too, that can kind of lock down a team and get you in the thick of things to start getting all those resets on his talent. So, on his trait. So it's interesting. We like to get in people's hands, see what they do with it.
Yeah.
I think like everything, we'll kind of watch where it goes. I think definitely everyone kind of sees that they might lean towards one right now.
Yeah.
But it'll be fun to see how it shakes out.
Okay. That was a good way of answering my question that I asked so eloquently.
I like that. It was polite.
I would like to talk about Hero League a little bit.
Okay.
We've been seeing it going through some changes, a lot of changes over the course of the game's history. Right now, we just got rank decay added in.
Yep.
And I was wondering what your impression is on how that's working, how that's being received, how matches have changed for the better or for the worse. I would just love to hear your input on that.
Yeah, I can't speak too much about the specifics of the data of how it's gone so far, but I think we had a lot of conversations leading into it about, there's this behavior that a lot of people have in the game where, they're coming in, and actually the way we bring content into the game, it kind of facilitates this, right? People will jump in, something exciting comes into the game, they'll play for a while, they'll wander off, and they'll come back, and it may be days, weeks, months between those things. So looking at that, and that, we would basically be carrying forward their MMR and their points as if they were, had been away for mere moments. Yeah. So I think the idea of it is definitely to try to give you a little bit of ramp-in time again and not kind of throw you to the wolves. And I think in practice it's working. Again, I can't speak to all the data of how it's been going since coming out, but yeah, we're kind of always looking at that of like what is player behavior? How can we kind of facilitate the best experience for them?
I remember that we used to be able to duo queue in Hero League. And I have to say, as someone who doesn't play Hero League often, mainly because I like to just play whatever feels good at the time, and don't necessarily want to play the strongest heroes in the meta, right? So as someone who doesn't play Hero League often, I enjoyed duo queue quite a bit, and I totally understand why at the time that it was removed, because two of the key reasons that I recall were that voice chat was a big part of it. Like, the players who queue together were often on some kind of third-party voice service, and they were able to communicate and shot call significantly better. And I'm going to be honest, at the moment, I don't remember the other reason. But now that voice chat is added into the game, and it's part of the base kit that everyone has access to, would Blizzard as a whole ever consider duo queue again in Hero League?
I think, so the other reason is probably that there's a lot of feedback that they want to maintain the sanctity of this idea of Hero League is about me as one person getting in there and playing. And the representation of me as an individual is my Hero League rank. And I think we saw that. We got a lot of feedback on it. I think it is, having voice chat in the game now, I think helps that. I don't know that we're talking about bringing back that right now, because I think the people who are really into Hero League now are probably not super excited about that coming back in.
This game is going so
poorly. You guys, this looks like our game earlier on the stage. It's probably mostly because you're talking, though.
I would like to think that it's not all on my shoulders. But the sanctity of Hero League.
Yeah, but so what we have been talking about, like, we just did a Reddit AMA recently that was covering a lot of different things, and Matt Cooper was talking in there about, we're talking about Team League more right now. Like, Team League, we still look at the thing that's the way we really would like to play. It feels like the ideal way to play the ranked mode is in a team. And we talked about for a long time that participation is low in that relative to Hero League and other game modes. We've done a bunch of things over the years to try to kind of encourage people to get into.
Can you talk about some of the struggles getting Team League, I don't want to say off the ground, but at more of the forefront of the experience?
So early on, like I don't remember if this was in the beta or the technical alpha, but we had Team League as a thing where you actually set up an actual team and you had 9 players in a roster. You named it. There's some things that were like, this is going to be so cool. Our group was called Hawk Lady. We were like, awesome. It was really good.
I had a team called Something Special. Better watch out. We're Something Special. That's a good name.
But yeah, that was our thing where it was like, well, this would be great. You're going to have this connection to it. You're going to have a group of people that play, and on any given time you want to get in there, you'll have 5 of you available to jump in as your named team and get in there. And there were too many barriers to that. There were all of the barriers you had to cross just to get qualified to play ranked play. And then at that time, it was like, I think you paid gold to set up your team, and that was supposed to just be so that people didn't spam a million teams and steal names and do all these things. But yeah, that was our first attempt, but it kind of didn't go very well. Didn't really help. It actually made it so it was even harder to get into Team League at the time. I think we'd consider things like that again, but what Matt was talking about is we're even considering things now of like, okay, what if we let single people queue back into Team League again? Because right now a big challenge is the vast majority of people queuing for Team League are doing it as duos right now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that's where they had to go when they lost the ability to do that in Hero League before. And what happens though is since there's so many 2s and we can only match them with parties of 3, and there's not a lot of 3s, it just creates this queue issue there. Bringing solo queuers into Team League would fill that. In a world, again, that we have voice chat now, we feel like as a group, you'd probably be able to still get pretty good games together, even doing that. And it would make it so that it would be a lot easier to get into games in Team League. So we're talking about things like that right now, because we still do want to strengthen Team League. We would like to make that a better experience. But that's just like a conversation right now. And I think part of the AMA was Matt putting some of those thoughts out there, and we've been getting a lot of good feedback on it. So we're kind of going to parse all that stuff and sit down and figure out what we think is the best next move for it.
Yeah, that was a good answer. I will say some of my most memorable matches in Heroes have happened in Team League. Like, I really do think that that's the way the game is meant to be played. And it's just encouraging other people to, well, I guess facilitating people to be able to jump into that easily, I think.
Yeah.
Who do you want me to play this game? I'll play anything you want.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. All right, you've been Mephistoing it all the time, huh?
Let's look at the team. We got a tank hover and a healer hover. We can play anything.
I don't know, yeah. Bring it. What can you play and talk and still do really well with?
I can anything. Anything.
What do they want you to play?
You wanna go to chat for this? The first thing I see is Murky, but we're gonna ignore that. Mobius? Nope, we're going to ignore that one too. Gazlo? I can do a Gazlo. He's actually one of my favorite characters.
I really like Gazlo as well.
Speaking of Gazlo, he's a goblin. Didn't you voice a goblin?
The Tinker in War 3.
Yeah.
And many of the goblins in WoW as well, the NPC goblins.
Did you say time is money, friend?
Yes.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
Sure. Which one? Like the Tinker one or the WoW one?
Can I get both?
It's pretty close, yeah. Time is money, friend. It takes 220, 221.
That's so cool. So, we're playing on Hanamura.
Oh, yeah.
That is a map that was released for Heroes 2.0, which was the big overhaul for the game.
Our first Overwatch map was Hanamura.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Now we have Volskaya Foundry. Are maps constantly, like, are you always trying out ideas, see what works, see what doesn't work? Can you talk about what goes into creating a map? Because I don't feel like that gets discussed very often.
Sure. Yeah, maps are actually very involved. Like a map is something we can actually stand up to playtest very, very quickly because we have lots of assets and things that we can just basically do the layout and do some of the POI functionality things pretty quickly. And then it takes a long time to play them and to kind of lock them into a place that we think they're in a good spot. And then there's actually a very long artification process to create all of these assets, especially when we go to a new tile set that we've never been to before. So a lot of work goes into maps. And the original Hanamura was one that I think the visuals on it are spectacular. It's like such a different look. It's a beautiful, beautiful map. Really cool to bring that aesthetic into the game. But on the original one, we also did something we try to do a lot with Battlegrounds, which is try a bunch of things and new things. And we're trying to make each one a different experience. And the whole idea of multiple Battlegrounds is that every time you play, strategies change, the different heroes and their viability relative to one another changes. The meta hopefully gets mixed up just map to map. So the original Hanamura, we had a lot of things that we were trying. It was pretty ambitious. And I think, we did payloads for the first time, but it was multiple payloads. Up to 4 of them were up at a time then. And the overwhelming feedback was just that players just could not agree on what was the right thing to do at any given time. So it ended up being something that created some confusion. And I think I heard from a lot of players that were like, I love that Battleground. I wasn't confused. Yeah. But a lot of players were confused by it. And I think part of this game, we want teams to be able to coordinate well together. And it's okay to have, 2 options that we need to decide on. But when we start really increasing that to the point that it's just one more thing for the team to be arguing with each other about instead of playing, it starts getting a little detrimental to the experience. So we've took it back. It was almost a year, I think, that we took it offline. It was gone a long time. And we really revisit it from the ground up. But we learned a lot, and that's kind of what this game's all about as well. We're always trying things, whether that's on Heroes or Battlegrounds or features. Like, it's something that we're always kind of looking at, and we go back to everything that we've done and try to make it better. And like hero reworks are the big thing now that we do as well. We're doing a lot of hero reworks. Each one is intended to take all the learning that we've had over the last 4 or 5 years of making this game and try to level up things that we've done in the past that are not at that current standard. So I think this Battleground, I think I liked it a lot before, and now it's actually really clean, and it gets, I think, the best aspects of what it had before, but in a way that I think will be a lot better experience for people.
So for me, the most frustrating part of the old Hanamura was the fact that the only way you could deal core damage was through the payload. And that caused, if the teams one was doing significantly better than the other, they were able to kind of just spawn camp you with no repercussions, and it was difficult to leave the base, like you felt trapped. I really appreciate the fact that the core is just a core. Yep. You can just go up to it. You can just beat it up.
Yeah, it gives some other options. So we thought it was good to let people who wanted to push have some options there to do it. And again, there's the singular payload that you're going to decide if you want to play that tug of war on it, but you can be pushing if you want to. Some choice.
Chat was asking if they're allowed to ask questions. Absolutely, you are. I gave you the mouse. If you see one of these that you like, just go ahead and highlight it, so you don't lose track of it.
Okay.
I thought that would be the easiest way, but I'll keep asking you questions. So hero reworks, like you said, big part of the game, big thing that's going on right now. The biggest one for me recently was Jim Raynor.
Yes.
Getting brought back into the spotlight in a big way. Absolutely loved it, I gotta say. Definitely a little strong on release.
He's in a strong place.
Good hero. Let's put it that way. But I think he's kind of settled down and really fun to play and brought a lot of life back into a character that I loved not only from StarCraft, but also from my time early in the alpha. Like when we had, 17 characters to play from, Jim Raynor was one of my go-tos. I absolutely loved him. Yep. So that's exciting to see. What kind of things do you look for in a hero to make you decide, you know what, it's time to revisit this? It's time to go back and take another look.
Yeah, there's a lot of things at play in that.
Yeah, I'm not getting out of this. There's no way.
It starts at everything from us just looking at some basic data like pick rates, win rates, looking at talent picks and their win rates.
Like talent diversity.
Yeah, if we start seeing things, there's a couple different ways we rework here. Some of it is just little balance changes that happen all the time, and you see us do that a lot just to kind of pick up things or push them down a little bit. But when it's really like a full rework where we kind of go back almost not fully to the drawing board, but we're willing to kind of look at them holistically and say, is there anything we want to change here? Even if it's basic abilities, we could rework the entire talent tree. We could revisit heroics. Like everything's kind of up in the air on that. But we're kind of looking at that spectrum of all the data points, but then at the same time hearing things from players. What are they interested in? Like if there's a character that it's kind of more niche and it's in a spot that, but it's its right spot, we're a little more hesitant.
What do you mean by that?
So like we have something like a Gazlo where I think he's in a place where he does Gazlo things, and there are a lot of players who love Gazlo and they want to play him. He might not be the first one that we're going to go and try to completely redo, but it would be nice if he had more play than he has now. Right. But something like Raynor, where he's been in the game from the very beginning, and like probably the most commonly requested hero, like Raynor and Chen were probably the two that we get asked for the most. They'd wanted to rework him for a while, but
Chen is a big one. I always see that.
And Chen definitely is, like, people keep asking about Chen. Chen is definitely on our radar and is something that we're going to be touching. I don't have a timeline for him, but definitely expect us to go through Chen again here soon. But like that whole idea though of like the way it's gone down with Raynor is great to me. Like he's present again. He has his place. He feels interesting again, and I think even just getting players to getting players to look at him again is awesome, because he's one of those heroes. Raynor was that. He's one of the most like kind of basic kit on its surface of any heroes. That's why he was our tutorial hero.
Yeah, that's true.
But being able to add things to him that let like higher level players have some more of like a skill ceiling in there and more interesting things you can do, more choices for talent diversity, and it just gets it in a better place. But
is that a difficult thing to manage? Hero complexity.
Yeah, team.
It's very
one whole year.
In my head. Is it very difficult to manage like the simplicity of the character versus their effectiveness? So Jim Raynor being, let's say previous Jim Raynor prior to the rework, was one of the most simple characters. So how do you weigh his power versus a hero that can be played on a very high skill ceiling? Does that make sense? I'm very dated again. Goodbye, cruel world. Okay, I was talking with my hands that time. We will blame this one on talking. But do you know what I mean? Like, how do you reward the players who master Li Ming and are able to land every skill shot from weird angles and stuff and make them feel satisfied, compared to a Jim Raynor who is able to walk in and click on a target and get similar results?
Yeah. I think part of the design philosophy here is that it's okay to have heroes that are really good at one or the other of those things, and if they don't all do both, that's okay. Like, part of the spectrum of heroes in the game is to provide that. Like, maybe there's heroes that floor is not where we would ideally like it to be, but it's okay for that hero to not be something that, as a brand new player, I can't be successful with them, because if you were able to be, then a really skilled player is actually going to just destroy constantly. So
that's true.
I mean, that's the back and forth of all of the balance process for this game. But I think overall, the team does a really good job of trying to take all those things into account, and a lot of thought and effort goes into it. Like, there's a dedicated team of balance designers that are both affecting the balance of new heroes that are coming into the game, and then everything that they're doing on balance updates and reworks. So
I'm going to get him. One of these days, I'm going to catch up to Genji. He's not going to know. I got the slow turrets and everything. He's not going to know what hit him. So BlizzCon's coming up right around the corner.
It is.
And Heroes usually has some pretty interesting characters revealed there. Can we get any hints?
No hints. I will say it's going to be another great BlizzCon for us.
I had to ask, right? I had to ask.
Yeah.
So is the reason I brought it up is we have Varian, May his soul rest in peace. Who was our first multi-class hero that was added into the game. And that was, I believe, two years ago.
2 BlizzCons ago.
Yeah. So, what's going on with that? Are we going to see more in the future? Do we think that was a successful concept?
I think so. That's another one of these examples of something different that we're trying, and I think we've kind of already acknowledged that it's one of these things where we like the idea of like, oh, you don't know what you're going up against, but it's also created some problems, and it definitely creates problems for matching teams and quick match and stuff of like which variant are you going to be and how do we get you a decent team comp on it. Oh, Genji just adding insult to injury there.
He's just always there.
So we're kind of acknowledging now that there's a role overhaul coming to the game.
Oh, is there?
Yep. So
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, so we're kind of looking at all of the existing roles, and I mean, one bucket is very small, which is Varian in the multi-class, so he will definitely, multi-class will kind of cease to be, and we'll pick a bucket or buckets for Varian to be in so that it feels a little more meaningful for matchmaking purposes. And then looking across the rest of the roles, Specialist is another area that was kind of like...
Yeah, so right now we have Assassin. Okay, I want to go deep into this. Right now we have Assassin, Warrior, Support, and Specialist. But then there's subcategories for matchmaking purposes of Bruiser, Sustain, and Stealth, and Tank thrown into that.
Those
and
are
Healer.
In the back end, some of those are being taken into account now, but that's not exposed to players in
right,
a way
right,
that
right.
makes
So
sense. Yeah.
How is the new system going to be structured?
So similar to what we're actually using in the background now. In addition to that, though, like Specialists will kind of cease to be as we see it today.
Okay.
And they will get bucketed into one of the other roles that make the most sense for them. Originally, we used Specialists as like, this character's kind of weird.
Yeah.
We don't really have a good explanation for them, and they just do something weird. And they did vastly different weird things, too. So even thinking of them as Specialists created a lot of strife with people of like, you can't do this because you're a Specialist. And it's like, well, I'm the Specialist who happens to be really good at blowing stuff up. Like, So the Specialist part will be part of it, but yeah, ranged assassin versus melee assassin, and
I need to leave before Genji kills me again.
He's gonna just jump in here.
He really is. Okay, so you're making it a little bit more clear.
Yeah, I think it will be easier for you to both to say what heroes am I interested in playing, because like let me understand what this hero is really good at, but then also from a matchmaking perspective, get even more control for us to be able to put together teams that get you a better comp.
Is there a timeline for that?
I don't have a timeline. There's a bunch of work we've done on it already. I don't know when it will hit the game, but it's definitely something that we want to get in there as soon as we can.
I think that's very exciting.
We think it'll be meaningful both, again, on the front end of just how would I pick heroes to us getting better
and that'll just improve the new player experience all around, I feel. Like that's
I think
it's
a good change.
Of course he didn't come back.
Oh.
Come on, you know you wanna. Okay, I'm leaving. I said I like Gazlo. I never really said I was good at him. I know I've said it, but I really do like that. I think that's really cool. Are the quick match rules for what so if we have a support, the enemy team has a support. If we have a tank, the enemy team has a tank. Is that ever going to be like displayed somewhere in the game, so you kind of know what to expect as a new player? I know because I play it all the time. But
yeah, we talked about there's probably a lot more we need to do on that front of exposing some of that stuff, and we've been tweaking it a lot. So I think alongside something like the role update, we would expect to see some more changes in the UI that are kind of getting that information in front of players in a way that they understand like what the underlying rule set is.
I will say, as a streamer and someone who makes a lot of content specifically targeted for new players and mostly in quick match as well, usually when I bring up the quick match rules, there's people who are surprised. Like they just aren't aware that those things exist. So there's direct feedback from me.
I think there was a thing early on where we were really resistant to doing that. We looked at quick match as kind of the Wild West, and we wanted it to be a place where it was really more about pick your favorite hero, know you're going to play that hero, and jump in. Yeah. But as it's been just a really popular way to play the game, but then having these games where you're like, I feel like I just have no way to win because there's this underlying rule set that's not in my favor. And so I think now we're getting to that point where we're going to have some rules that do dictate like underlying meta more, but in a way that we feel like it's probably consistent with the way the game's played anyway, and it's not like destructive really to the idea of choice, or that you have some flexibility, and you could make great teams outside of those rule sets. It's just you probably don't want to do them solo queuing into quick match.
I'm glad you brought up the meta word. Oh, come on. Because a little while ago, I was invited out to the Blizzard headquarters for a little press summit, talking about changes to supports, and specifically making it so that the double support meta that was, pretty big, pretty good, specifically changing designs there to make it so teams had more flexibility, and you were able to pick more heroes rather than, Rhaegar, Tassadar, Ariel, whoever, every game.
Yep.
When do you decide that you need to intervene as developers and say, you know what, for the health of the game, we need to change how this is going? And when do you just kind of sit back and see where it goes?
Yeah, I think that's one of those delicate balance things where the most important thing, we try not to overreact to those things or have a knee-jerk reaction to them. We want to make sure that there's some time for things to settle out. Just because something comes into vogue doesn't mean it's going to stay there, or that there won't be suddenly we realize that we can just totally kind of counterpick something like that and shut it down. But once it becomes so dominant that it becomes the way to play the game and kind of the only way to play the game, that's when I think they start getting a little
right. There's a difference
sensitive
between double support being required like it was, and having two warriors is kind of good right now. There's still counter strategies to that.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping is if it's devolving though, and there's nothing else, and even if it's, sometimes there's that perception where it's actually there are other options, they're just not playing them. And that's the one we want to wait for and see if we see that in an HGC team that we start going, okay, here's how you shut it down. Please, let's all start leaning that direction, and it will kind of fall out of favor,
We are here at Gamescom, and while we were playing, we realized that a particular support got a little bit of a rework. Tyrande went from, I believe this is her third rework.
She's had
fourth?
Touched her a lot, yes.
Quite a bit. Can you talk about some of the struggles settling Tyrande into her place?
Yeah. So she's one of these heroes that has a lot of fun in her kit, but she's also really hard to build a team around and feel like historically that she kind of has her place. Yeah. I think there's a lot of people who play Tyrande and really enjoy her, but it's just their mileage varies a lot on how successful they feel like they can be in a team with her. So this was about really clarifying her role, which we're trying to do for most of the heroes in the game. We want them to have their spot where you kind of understand what their strengths and purpose are. So this took her more on the healing side.
One auto attack, please! He's gonna kill me. He's gonna kill me. This guy's gonna kill me.
It's worth a shot.
It was. You gotta have fun.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's good. Did you get to play her yet? Maybe you should play her in here or something.
Yeah, I can play her next game. I like her a lot.
Yeah.
First impressions, really, really positive. I will say the snipe build for Tyrande was one of my favorites in the game for the longest time. And I am kind of sad to see the stacking quest go. But just her playstyle is so aggressive now. If you're able to get in there and just keep auto-attacking and keep, the APM to player is actually pretty high, because you have to always be stutter stepping, always be moving in, moving out, and keeping yourself safe. And then you have 2 charges of your Q on top of that to spread around to your allies. So I definitely think the skill required to player has gone up.
Yep.
Especially over time, since from the alpha version of Tyrande, she's definitely gotten a lot harder. But it's really satisfying to play.
Cool.
I really like it.
That's great. We're excited to get it. It's going to hit PTR next week, so along with Mephisto and Hanamura Temple. So we're excited to get people in there playing them. And we always have our balance patch that's a couple weeks after that. So we'll watch how it feels and how it plays out. Very interested for the Tyrande mains out there, because again, we are taking some things away, but we're giving something that we hope is a meaningful new playstyle for her.
Do you think that so Tassadar, the other sustained support, is he currently on the radar? for being looked at for some changes to kind of bring him into the spotlight?
He is. I mean, we've done a couple of things to Tassadar over the years as well. I think I don't have a timeline. It's not like
absolutely
so eminent that I can speak to it, but I think the team is definitely kind of aware of all these characters that have kind of had trouble finding their place.
Right. Okay. Can we talk about I don't know. I just want to keep asking you about characters. How do you feel about the Lost Vikings?
So Matt talked about them a little bit while we were here.
Oh, did he?
I think it's like he was in one of the interviews. He was talking about the fact that Matt comes from Starcraft 2, like many of us on the Heroes team did. But coming from that RTS background and he's someone that as a high level RTS player really has a lot of fun with the Vikings. But the Vikings are not a character that someone coming off the street that doesn't have that RTS experience or the capabilities to do it can really use very effectively right now. But again, they're a very unique play style. We like that about them right now, but they're kind of thinking about what are kinds of things that they could do to the Vikings to make them something that more players could engage with and have fun with, that still lets them be unique, but I don't have a timeline for that one either.
Yeah, I'm not asking for timelines.
It's definitely one of those ones where they've struggled because they've been like the highest win rate in the game at one point, but least played at the same time, and there's been a lot of things that go on with the Vikings over the years.
And all that says is the people who play him extremely well, right? Come on, team. I'm slowing him so much, please. Come on, Volley, get your murdered! We're going to win this game. I don't know if you knew that.
I think you are. This one's a little closer than the last one.
Yeah, definitely. It helps when all of your players are participating. So, with first of all, how's HGC going? Are you happy with the viewership? Are you happy with I don't know, in general, how's it going?
It's going great. HGC is a program, it was really that first league program that we set up. It was even ahead of when Overwatch League hit.
Yeah.
But, the whole goal was to create a program that had a consistent schedule with just a lot of, if you wanted to dig into Heroes esports, you'd have a lot of opportunity to see really good matches really often for, on a steady schedule. And I think they've really been leveling it up over the last couple of years since we started it. And this year has been really great because there's been a lot of growth in it. It's unique viewership's up more than twice what it was last year. They've done a lot of really cool programs, bringing in Twitch drops this year around the Brawl, so that the mid-season stuff, so that we can have people who are watching get rewards in the game.
Yeah, that was great, by the way. Are there any plans to? I think there's still Twitch drops if you watch HGC.
For HGC now, but we had it on everything too during that. You guys had them on anytime you watch Heroes on your stream. It was awesome. Yeah. So I think we'll keep looking for ways to do that kind of stuff. It's probably not something they'd leave on all the time necessarily, but they probably will do it in little spurts so that there's moments.
It has to feel special.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people won't flock to it, I think.
It should be a cool thing, a nice surprise to get sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's not just about that though too. I think the games have been really good. I was at the mid-season Brawl in LA, which was the Western one. What was that? A couple months ago?
Yeah.
But
the Clash was just a few weeks ago. So the one before that.
Yeah. But so many good games coming out of that. And
Absolutely.
I think the game just shows really well when you're watching HGC, and I think the production values on it are so good. The casters are so good. It's just a really great experience that we see more and more people engaging with. And I think even people who aren't necessarily playing Heroes can check into it and actually get something out of it. It's not something that they're having trouble following. It's so action-packed that I think it's a really good viewing experience. So I'm excited about HGC. I think it's an awesome celebration of the game at the highest level of play, and I'm super happy to have it there.
From a balancing perspective, how much of it is for the everyday Joe, and how much of it is for the tippy top of the top-end competitive?
Yeah. So, I mean, the game is an esport, so they want to make sure that they're making decisions that support the highest level of play. But every time we have a conversation about any hero and balance changes, they're slicing it by all skills, and they're trying to make decisions that will resonate across the player base. And so while we're going to balance for it as an esport, we're also thinking about everybody else as well, the vast majority of people. So they rarely will make changes that would be something that doesn't have the desired effect across the entire player base, basically.
Okay. Someone in chat, I'm going to summarize, just asked, how do you feel, I'll make it open-ended, how do you feel the in-game reporting systems are currently working, and are there any improvements to that you could see making? So for if someone's being toxic or if whatever, AFK, anything like that.
Yep. So that's a huge thing for our game and for all multiplayer games. It's been something that we've put a lot of effort into from the very beginning, and I think overall we made a lot of design choices in the game that we thought we were minimizing toxicity, some of those choices from the very beginning, but then there's a lot of things that have gone on top of that as well, from reporting systems that you guys see that are on the front end that are exposed to you, to the way we handle things on the back end that are not exposed to players at all as well. I think it's something that that like the rest of the game is evolving all the time. We've made a lot of changes and improvements, and Blizzard as a whole is like really investing heavily in anti-toxicity across the board. We just really want our games to be places that people could come in and have a good time and have really good options for how to not deal with people who are not there to have a good time.
For the record, I heard you about Tyrande, but this guy was covering it.
All good.
I didn't want to take it away from him.
It's fine. We'll see some Tyrande in there. So some of the changes, like there's more coming right now. Like we've had a lot of feedback of things like recently Overwatch put in something that will do in-game notification when you report and when action's taken on your reports.
So like if a guy is ruining your play experience, to put it politely, and you report him, you would get notified if action was taken.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we've been actually doing that with emails for a while now. So there's been a test of us just trying to get some more information out there to players. But I think long term we would want that in-game notification as well. And I think that work that's being done, it's not just like Overwatch and their client as far as how they integrate and show you things. That's on the game team side. But there's within our customer service thing, there's a giant initiative of how all the tools and processes we're putting in place to continue battling toxicity as a company. So I think there's more things coming to Heroes where we integrate more of that in the front end, where you see it in the client as well. But it's a battle that we won't ever stop fighting, but we will keep giving more weapons for both us and our players so that we can get rid of those people. I want to come in here and have a good time playing. I don't want to deal with people that are just being jerks about everything.
Would like accommodations ever be something that is considered? So like rewarding someone for being funny or happy or fun-spirited or being a good leader or something like that.
Yeah, it's something that we've been looking at for a long time, and again, Overwatch recently put in their version of that. I think we want it to be kind of multifaceted and not just be something that you're punished. We want to have things in the game that reward players for good behavior as well. I don't have details on what the Heroes incarnation of that is, but we're definitely learning a lot from seeing how Overwatch's implementation is impacting the game and the players and their actual toxicity in their game. So I think that will inform a lot of what our next steps would be from that.
Cool. I'm going to win this game, by the way.
It feels like it.
I feel like...
Level 2, we're calling it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I go Smash. Always Smash. It's by far, I think, his most fun choice. Maybe not the most effective in all situations, but definitely the most fun choice.
Everyone likes to Smash.
What character do you play when you're at home and just having fun?
Yeah, so I've gone like all Blaze all the time since Blaze launched. Like, not all the time, but he's my main of mains, and I kept promising myself, when he hits 100, I'm going to stop playing him.
100?
He's like 130 or something right now. Like,
wow.
I've been playing so much Blaze. I just really, really like Blaze. Is just the interaction of his abilities. I like his peel. I love Bunker.
Bunker's really fun.
Yeah.
I remember when he first released, I was like, no one's going to use Bunker. It's not going to be good. Come on, guys.
Yeah, it's still, even now that people understand Bunker, it's still sometimes hard at my skill level to get people to use it properly.
Speaking of being high level, there was a guy who came by yesterday. He was like, Pally, I'm a huge fan. It was so good to meet you. I'm a level 160 Kel'Thuzad player. And I was like, wow, okay. And I played a game with him. He was absolutely ridiculous. Like, far and beyond the best Kel'Thuzad I've ever seen.
Wow.
I think it's so cool that people can come in this game and maybe not every play style is for them, right? But then they find something that just clicks and they can master it. I really think that's good.
Yeah, it's really fun to go deep into it, one of them, and really master them. I wouldn't say I've really mastered Blaze, but I really like Blaze.
Another question from chat. This is something I've brought up for a long, long, long time. So I used to be an ETC main, still like him a lot, but he has prog rock as a talent, which allows him to kind of help out on healing every now and then. And for a while, it wasn't. I think you can now. But for a while, it wasn't possible to actually track your healing statistics to see how you were doing, to see how effective you actually were. Are there any plans in the future to kind of expand the numbers that we can see, whether or not it's like self-healing on a character like Illidan, or total seconds crowd controlled on a tank? You know, is there any plans to kind of flesh that out a little bit more?
We've definitely heard that feedback. And you're talking about like in the tab screen,
yeah,
right?
just hit tab and be like, maybe there's something else that you can click on here to see.
Right now we filter out things that are outside of like what we have determined their core kit to be, even though they have things that impact other stats that you're not seeing.
Right.
Yeah, I think we've heard that. There's some other UI stuff that would be coming that I think if we were able to get that in, it would be alongside some of those other changes. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't have a timeline for it, but I think we hear the feedback, and it makes sense to me. Like,
okay,
totally.
And I just wanted to say, it's totally fine that you don't have like a timeline for all of this stuff. I'm definitely not trying to pressure dates out of you.
No, it's totally fine. I mean, if it was something that was imminent, it would be nice to be able to say that. But
yeah, absolutely.
But these are definitely things that we're talking about. So.
Okay, cool. I'm really excited to hear that. And I'm not going to die here. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Can you talk about, I know there was like, we're getting into like the nitty gritty stuff now. A little while ago, there was a bunch of discussion about Arthas getting a new model.
Yeah.
So he can look shiny. Can you talk about some of the struggles, some of the reasons why that may happen, why that may not happen?
Yeah, I think we see that feedback. We made an update earlier. One challenge we have with that is some players like the old models. So if we were ever going to do something like upgrade Arthas' model, we'd have to do it in a way that let people continue to play with the original model, because some people like it, and we don't really want to take something like that away from you. But that level of rework on a model is effectively the same thing as making a brand new hero, or like a mega legendary skin or something. So
because you have to make the skeletal structure different, and then
it's gonna have new animations. Everything's gonna be redone on it when we do something like that. It may not necessarily impact effects, but everything on the core model and its animations, rig, everything's gonna get redone when we do something like that. So I think we hear the feedback. We're interested in it. Again, it's one of the older models in the game. It also, our visual style has evolved since those early days of making the game. And so I think we hear the feedback, and I think we agree with it in ways, and it's just something that we have to prioritize against everything else we do in the game. And do we want a new hero, or do we want a new Arthas model? And then those are the kind of things we have to consider in that conversation. But I would not rule that out. Someday I think we will get a new Arthas model. I don't know when, but definitely hear the feedback.
My best friend just asked a question about the MVP screen.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it open-ended. Since the MVP system has been added, what kind of effects do you think that's had on the game? And are you happy with the way that system's working?
I think it's a good beginning. I think before that we didn't have anything like that to kind of give you any feedback on how it went relative to everyone else in the game. Mm-hmm. It definitely needs a lot more. I think there's more things that I think we want to do now, and which is a matter of time and energy and resources of when we can get that kind of stuff in. But one thing is, it'd be really nice to get people to actually always vote on it and be interested in voting, so at least it starts becoming more meaningful. The actual rule set that determines whether or not you are awarded MVP is something that I think people debate about a lot and question, like, hey, why did he get MVP? I should have had it. So
for instance, damage taken on Muradin. Let's just say my best friend may not be the best Muradin in the whole world, but he can take some damage. And at the end of every game, he shows up on the board, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I think we've actually evolved that a bunch since it first came out, and we've changed a lot of things, and it's gotten a lot tighter. But it's a system that, like many systems, will need constant care and feeding, and trying to make it as meaningful as possible and have some value to players. I don't know. I think it's gotten better, but it has a ways to go as well. I'm glad it's there in its current form.
I'm glad it's there too. I really like it. Some people have. I'm sure you've heard, but recommended like getting a small amount of XP or a little bit of in-game currency just for throwing a vote out or something.
I think we've had conversations about that stuff, so I wouldn't rule that stuff out. I think, again, I really want everyone to look at that and vote and like feel like it means something. That would be nice.
That would be nice. So, I agree. Someone asked how you decide which characters get new skins and which characters do not. I know, for instance, Greymane in particular, and let's say characters like Vikings and Rexar, you have to make basically 2 models worth of skins for a single character. Does that go into consideration?
That's part of it. That wouldn't be the sole determining factor, but it's just something we have to consider as part of that. In any given cycle, there's only so much bandwidth we have to do things, and so we're always kind of doing that tug of war of which thing we should do. Someone get that trick. There's a lot of things that happen. I mean, honestly, one of the bigger driving forces of when we make skins is, does someone on the team have an awesome skin idea that they're really excited about? Or do we get a concept, or just like literally sometimes it's an email where someone throws out something or we're like, ooh, that sounds good. Now we're in this mode too with the game where we're exploring more of these like thematic skin drops where we'll do 2 or 3 or 4 characters in one theme for it. And we've been having a lot of fun with that. It has also given us something to really grab onto and lean into as something that is explorations of these various alternate realms within the Nexus, and like some of them have been just awesome. Like this year has been pretty sweet. Everything from Mecha Storm to the Warchrome Wastes.
I loved the Mecha Storm.
Yeah, Mecha Storm was awesome. And we'd already done Mecha Tassadar years ago. And Kaijo Diablo was kind of in that universe as well, if you kind of thought about it that way. If you read the descriptions, they were kind of touching on that. But digging into that stuff more, doing the visual exploration, but then also just playing with the actual storyline of what's going on. Why do these things exist? Why do we have these alternate versions of these characters? Has been a lot of fun for us. So right now, sometimes now a theme is dictating the visuals, and then that will then in turn have us look at the spectrum of heroes in the game and say, which ones would fit really well into this? And sometimes there's ones where it's like, wow, we've done a skin for that person recently, but we would love to do this one as well, and it feels like, okay, let's do it. But it's all about the excitement within the team and the things that they're passionate about.
So we saw some community-created content being added into the game, specifically from Carbot. His sprays and portraits. That's the word. His portraits being added in. Is that something that maybe could be opened up to just any Joe Schmo who likes to do art? Maybe could create a skin in a 3D animator and present it? Would that ever be an option?
I think we have a good process for something like that now. I will say that we work with a lot of artists, like freelance artists now, are creating lots of content. That's where so many of these really cool new skins and portraits, and even some of our like key art now, we're just working with like, we're just picking artists that we like their style and we like the work that they're doing, and we'll have them do collections of things for the game. And so that's been a really cool change, because in the beginning, everything you saw in the game was only done by people on our game, and now we're able to bring in a lot of different visual styles, and it kind of seen the spectrum of sprays and skins really expand because we started doing that. So I would say if somebody was really passionate about art and they had ideas for things, they could, get some traction by posting their stuff to their ArtStation or DeviantArt or wherever they put their stuff, and then just show that they're out there and they're passionate about heroes and working on it, and we may get in touch.
It's actually really cool. What about announcer packs that maybe? Okay, I'm going to cut to the chase. I want to do an announcer pack. How do I do that?
It sounds cool.
I want to do that.
Yeah,
I think do that really bad.
I'm totally open to that stuff, and I think it's worth having conversations about. A lot of people have asked for announcer packs with Kevin Johnson Cloakin, who does our spotlight videos and stuff.
I would love that too.
I think we're totally open to that. It's a conversation we want to have. One challenge we have, and actually something that happened recently, we did Nexomania. And the reward for the quest for Nexomania was El Guapo announcer.
I use him all the time.
Me too. I still use it just constantly. But, the thing about that was really fun was that it worked in every region. It could be something that everyone could get and be excited about. So if we did something like a Kevin Johnson Cloakin announcer, or you or whoever, I'd want to make sure that we had some regional equivalents in non-English speaking countries too. And
that
so
makes sense.
I want to look for those kind of opportunities as well. So if people are from regions and there's some, there's no equivalent to you anywhere, Pally, but if there was a regional Pally equivalent that would be someone that would be cool to do that with, I would be wanting to kind of get that kind of coverage too. So
Blizzard's always been watch this, countered. Blizzard's always been extremely inclusive with that kind of thing, and I've always really liked. So the cutscenes and the trailers and cinematics, everything we've been seeing on stage here this whole week, there's always
get more banners.
There's always versions of that in like 13 different languages or something, right? It's like something ridiculous.
And they put a lot of effort into that casting. Like we're playing the Jaina Warbringers one here.
Yeah.
And that song was like fully localized in German. It was amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I honestly think it sounds better in German than it does in English. No disrespect to anyone who worked on it.
Nope.
Maybe it's the sound system there too. That might have something.
It's great. They look as far and wide as they do for when they do their casting for English speaking when they're doing the localized versions, and I think it really shows in the localization work.
I agree. That's something that you definitely don't have to do, right? As a company, you can cater to your largest audience, and just if anyone doesn't fall into that category, well, I'm sorry, but I really like how inclusive it is. That's really cool. Would you? I lost my train of thought. I knew what I was going to ask. Have you talked about Thunder Fury plus Vader the Windseeker? Can we get a... Do you know the meme? The Thunder Fury meme?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know the Thunder Fury.
You just go into WoW and you put it in general. You play WoW, right?
I have played WoW. I came back for BFA a little bit here, but I went right back to Heroes, so... Does that make me a bad person?
All you got to do is go into general chat and say, did someone say Thunder Fury plus Vader the Windseeker? And everyone else will also ask the same thing.
Okay.
It'll just fill up. Are there any heroes from Blizzard universes you specifically would like to see represented in Heroes that aren't in the game just yet? You said you like the Starcraft universe. Is there someone from Starcraft you feel like would fit into the next as well?
There's a lot of cool characters from StarCraft that I think we could still go to. You know, what was fun about when we brought StarCraft characters in, we brought Lieutenant Morales was just our kind of personification of the medic, and Sergeant Hammer was doing that with the siege tank. So I like that we took units that you didn't really have like a relationship with the character necessarily. Maybe you were familiar with hearing their voice lines and their pistol lines and stuff in the game, but we kind of brought them as real characters into the game. Wow, this is painful.
It's not that painful.
So I like the ability to be able to kind of explore characters that you didn't know, but you have a relationship with the actual kind of kit and the general vibe of those characters. So I like that stuff. I also like going way back to our beginnings, and so I was actually really happy that we did the Lost Vikings.
Yeah.
I would not be sad to see something coming in from Rock and Roll Racing or get Kyle in there from Blackthorn or something. I think some of that would be fun just from my pure nostalgia. I don't know that I think I hear a lot of feedback that people want to see that stuff as well, especially because as a celebration of Blizzard, there's a lot of players who've been with us from the beginning and are familiar with those characters. But anytime we get to go to something that we haven't explored for a while or get to do a take on them that maybe we never did, like Mephisto is actually really cool because I like going when we make things that are bosses or things that you've played against and now being able to play as that character. I think that's always a cool really fun take on it.
The Butcher, I had a very similar, even though I didn't play the original Diablos 1 and 2, I still recognize the Butcher as like a super intimidating force. I remember fighting him on Infernal difficulty when Diablo 3 released, and just being terrified of every single thing that he did. So I really do think that translated well into the game, even from someone who wasn't like intimately knowledgeable.
Yeah, I think when the Butcher came to Heroes, we had that hero trailer for him that was like total like our horror film trailer that captured that fear of hearing that breathing.
It was really cool. I did not mean to go in there. Okay, backing up. Just so my chat knows that I'm a dedicated man, do you think you could ballpark how many times I've asked you specifically to add Deathwing into the game? How long have I known you? 5 years?
Something like that, yeah. Probably we're probably in the 30 plus times, and not just like mentioning the name Deathwing. Like we've probably had conversations of it. Yeah, like what if we were on his back?
Yeah, what if he was a map?
Yeah, you're just playing on his back. I'm like, that's like actually sounds really cool. I like that.
Did you see Carbot's "It'd Be Cool If" that I voiced for Deathwing?
Yes, was that a while back?
It was a month or two ago.
Was that recently?
Yeah. Oh, I recorded it forever ago. But yeah, he just did it.
It's cool.
You should watch it.
I'll have to watch it, yeah. Actually, I like a lot of John's things that he does like that.
It's really good.
Like, it's interesting when he did the Deckard one. I'm like, huh.
Do you ever get noticed at conventions? I know, I saw it too. Do you ever get like fans coming up to you? That kind of thing?
Occasionally. Sometimes like at the grocery store.
Oh, really?
Yeah, occasionally.
Oh.
I think there's just enough people in the game, and I think probably the doing BlizzCon opening ceremony is probably the thing that just makes it at least have a little more visibility. But usually the fun part about game develop is you get to lurk in the shadows and just go make games. So.
This guy has been saying comments very similar to this one over and over and over again, so I'm going to oblige him. Is there any plan to add any sort of other PvE encounters into Heroes of the Storm other than, let's say, Escape from Braxis?
Yeah, so those 2 brawls that we did were a really fun test for us, and I think we learned a lot and we had a lot of fun making them. We got a lot of great feedback from them. I think people played them a lot. I liked watching people kind of try to be, kind of have their own leaderboards for them of how fast they could get through them and stuff. That's all awesome. So I like that. I would totally be open to doing more of those. I will say that they are kind of a different direction from us from what we spend most of our day doing for the game. So I don't know that it would be something that I have some eminent timeline for, but it was really cool doing them.
Can you talk about the development for the brawls? Because honestly, that's not a mode I venture into very often. So I can't say I know too much about it.
Yeah, brawls were supposed to be this fun, quick thing for you to be able to jump into while you're waiting for people to get out of the game or something. And it's also a testing ground for us to try new things in and experiment. And so we've kind of had this big spectrum of things from, everything from the single-lane battlegrounds that have come out alongside new maps to something like the 2 PvE brawls that we made. But I don't know, overall it's it's a fun thing to jump into. I think most players kind of get in and they get the reward and they get out.
Yeah.
I'm interested in ways to make that mode more meaningful, but overall, the core game is really what we're focused on, and brawls are more of just a fun side thing for us to do. Wow.
Told you I was going to win this game.
Yep.
Confident from level 2.
Yep.
20 levels of confidence.
Yeah, 20 minutes and 20 levels later.
Well, I won't take too much more of your time up because I've had you for an hour and 2 minutes. I'm a very punctual man.
Wow.
In fact.
That's nice.
I want to thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure. I always enjoy it. If you guys, can people find you on the internet anywhere if they want to?
They can. I think what we've been doing on our team, just so everybody knows, our team is a lot of people, and our game is a lot of people, a lot of very passionate people.
Absolutely.
My team is so engaged with this game. We definitely are trying to exist in a world on our team where it's not just me. It's not
right.
I want to have as many people on our team as possible to be engaging with our community and talking about our game. And we've been doing that more in the forums and on Reddit, and there's actually more programs where we're trying to ramp that up even more. So I am on Twitter, but I haven't done anything on Twitter in a while. I think if you guys want to talk on the forums, put something on Reddit, we'll have more communication there.
I think it's good.
And then, but what's really cool is the people who are actually working on the things that they're talking about are the ones now that are out communicating a lot, which I think is awesome. Because, again, they're playing the game, they're working on the game. It's really important to have these conversations directly with our players, and it kind of puts everything in perspective. So please keep talking to all of us. We read, see, hear all of your feedback. We're all in this game every day playing it alongside of you as well. So we'll keep pushing to do everything we can to make it better and better.
I mean, I really think it showed. Like, most of the stuff we brought up today, you said, yeah, we've heard feedback on that. We're talking about it internally. And it's good that you guys have, your feet on the ground. You're in the trenches.
And I want people to know there's a lot of things we really want to do for this game, and we keep pushing on it. And you see us plugging away and trying to do everything we can to balance awesome content, awesome features, going back to things we did in the past and leveling them up. But the backlog lists of all the stuff we want to do for this game are just
so many moving
It's enormous, parts. And we all really care about it. And I want to make sure it's clear that when I say that we're talking about those things, we literally are. And it's really just a question of how soon can we get something that in, and what else would we have to push in favor of it,
Yeah.
So we'll keep doing that. So you guys, your feedback drives us a lot, and it's a really good data point that helps us round out how our feelings about the game and what's important. So keep doing that.
I absolutely love having these talks with you. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, man.
Once again, thank you.
Thanks.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you too. Bye, everybody.